This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast, where CEOs of small to global companies share their insights. It is 6 questions in 9 minutes because top CEOs know how to listen and be concise. So let's get to it. First of all, welcome. And in just a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me here, Earl. My name is Matt McAlear, and I am the CEO of the McAlear Group. And we are a mid-sized family-owned business. We've been in business since 1962. We have over 10 locations across the U.S. We have somewhere around 300 employees. And we have 3 different companies that are all kind of within that McAlear group as a whole. And so the first company is called Service Spring. It was founded in 1962 by my great-grandfather. And that's the company where we essentially manufacture springs for the garage door industry. And we also sell all of the other pieces, parts, and components in there as well. The second business is Drain Cables Direct, in which we manufacture sewer snakes for the drain and sewer industry. And the third one we started about 9 years ago, and that's called Innovative Machine and Manufacturing. And that is our machine shop, and pretty much we just make parts mostly internally, but we also do some outside work as well.
All right. You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. So tell me, what's the best thing about being the CEO of your many companies?
Well, I think just candidly, one of the best things about being a CEO in general is you have a lot of control and autonomy over your time and your schedule. So, I am pretty busy. I have a lot of different stuff going on, but at the same time, I have the flexibility to decide, hey, I want to focus on this, or I need to take some time away and spend some time with my family. And so the flexibility is a huge perk. And I think one other secondary perk is if you enjoy learning and you're constantly curious and hungry, being a CEO is one of the best positions I can think of, where you're constantly bombarded with new information and new ideas. And so you're always learning. And so that's also exciting and fun to be a part of.
Indeed. Very good. Well, and throughout my career, and I would imagine throughout yours, you've heard from other CEOs that leading their team and being able to see what lies ahead can be a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've heard it said before, if business didn't have customers or employees, everybody would do business and it would be pretty easy. So by far, that is the most challenging part. And it's also the most rewarding part as well, of being able to help your employees and your team members kind of get to the next level, help coach them to get better. And I would say another challenge is even just kind of broadcasting the vision or kind of the core values across the company. A lot of times I feel like I'm saying the same thing day in and day out, and I'm just trying to say it a little bit different or trying to have a different spin on it. Because a lot of people, the typical person, you need to tell them 3 to 4 times before it actually starts to sink in. So I think a lot of times you feel like you're being repetitive, and that's when you're actually probably just saying it the appropriate number of times. But it's definitely the biggest challenge and also the biggest opportunity for growth as well.
Agreed. Well, throughout all of your experience over time, what piece of insight do you want to share with other CEOs?
Yeah, that is a great question, and one that I'm trying to think of multiple different ways. Because there's so many different things that you could go into, whether it's personnel or whether it's just leadership stuff in general, or whether it's strategy, or so many different things. And one of my favorite podcasters that I love is Craig Rochelle, and he does this big leadership podcast, and there's a ton of really good content and stuff on there. And one of the things he always says, and so I'm going to kind of steal this a little bit, is as a leader, you don't always have to be right. And people would rather follow a leader who's always real than one who's always right. And, I found myself, especially early in my career, always trying to have all of the answers or make sure, I was in a room and able to provide all of the different data, feedback, and things like that. And I found out that, I came off probably more abrasive than I needed to be. And to just be honest, like, hey, I don't know the answer to this, but I know we're going to be able to figure it out because we have the right team in place. And so that was one of the things. And honestly, it's our job to hire the right people. And if you hire the right people, you don't need to have all the answers. That's why they're there. They're probably going to be smarter than you in that area, more capable, have more experience in that area. And that's who you want. So you want to be able to empower those people to be able to have the autonomy and the freedom to do those things. And then you're going to work with them to come up with how to move forward and just be real with them. I think you gain a lot more respect and trust with your team that way as well. And ultimately that's going to lead, you're going to be happier because you don't feel like you have to have everything perfect, and your team's going to be happier because they're going to be able to trust you and they're going to know that you're being real and authentic. So that would be my number one, I think, piece of advice to other CEOs.
Very good. Very good. Well, you've been around for a while. You just laid out a good piece of insight and wisdom along your path. What other successful CEOs like yourself would you like to acknowledge or shout out and should be on my podcast?
Sure. Yeah. There's, I think, a few other local good CEOs here that are phenomenal at what they do. Ryan Wright at One Natural Way. He is a phenomenal local CEO, and he's one that operates, multiple different businesses. He's kind of a serial entrepreneur, just a phenomenal individual in general. Another guy I met through one of the affinity groups that I was a part of, his name is Matt Yarder, and he runs Yarder Manufacturing. And I believe he's second generation in that business. And he's another phenomenal CEO, brilliant guy. And so he's one that I would definitely recommend. And then if I'm being selfish, my wife is also starting up a winery, a local winery in the area, and her name is Jen, and she's actually going to be launching it in April 28th. And she is telling you what, she's going to be solid. So I would definitely recommend her on the podcast as well.
Well, we would very much like to have her on. Excellent. So now, Matt, the final question: how do you celebrate a win?
Yeah, I think in general, it depends on the size and the magnitude of the win. Obviously, the bigger the win is, the more we want to do, and you kind of try and look at that. But in general, one of the things I've found is that if you have the right team members on your team, a lot of times they're going to be very critical of themselves, really tough on themselves, a lot tougher than I'm ever going to be on them. And so I found that even the small successes, the small wins, they actually become a lot more important, because you may only celebrate the big wins once every, month or couple months or whatever, but you should be constantly every week trying to find a small win to be able to pat your team on the back with, because they know what they need to do to improve a lot of times. And so I find that being positive to them and lifting them up and encouraging them to do better ultimately is one of the best things to do. So that's what I try and do. And I try and do that often, and just try and lift the team and encourage them.
Very good. Very good. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on today. How can people find you?
So they can go to, my Facebook is probably the easiest if you're just trying to find me. If you're trying to find the various companies that I'm at, you would just go to the McAlearGroup.com. And we're always hiring at the company, and we would love to have you on board. We'd love to get a chance to chat with you, but go to either the McAlearGroup.com, or if you wanted to message me directly, you can just go to Matt McAlear, search that in Facebook, and be able to contact me directly.
Very good. Very good. This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast. For more insights, go to LinkedIn and search for the Gray Owl Company. Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you.